Welcome to SEL in EDU.
where we discuss all things social and emotional in education.
I'm Krista.
And I'm Craig, and we are your hosts on this journey.
All right, SEL EDU family. Krista, how you holding up these days? We are still in winter. It's just been interesting.
We are, and we always talk about this because by the time people hear this podcast, it'll be spring. But Craig, I'm going to steal one of your words because when we first got on, you said it was a robust day. And the guests and I and you were talking about that. And I've been on the road for 2 weeks. I just got home. I was doing some work out in Illinois, but unfortunately, I didn't get to see our guests because I wasn't close up there. But I left on Tuesday. I had to run out to the airport. I grabbed the car keys that were sitting next to my computer. It was one of those cars that you couldn't plug. You didn't have to put the key in the ignition. So I got in, started the car, drove the half an hour back to St. Louis, dropped off the car, got on, where I needed to be to my gate 10 minutes before boarding. I look in my bag and I have the set of car keys. I'm like, what just happened? I'm like, okay, dang. Okay, I need to mail these back. Well, I land in Philly and my phone is blowing up that my colleague, I was working with somebody from another company, couldn't find his car keys. So what ended up happening is I grabbed his car keys from another company, took them, put them in the car, started it because I had my keys in the bag. So now I've been trying to get a hold of both car companies to like, you're 2,000 feet from each other. Can you please just walk those other keys over to the other company so that I'm not paying $250? And they kind of won't. They won't play nice with each other because they don't like each other. And I'm like, so I'm having a robust day. I just mailed back my car keys, but I'm looking at a $250 charge to cover my friend's keys because I took the wrong ones. That's all. How are you? How are you? Do you have a robust story to share?
I'm just like, this is a conversation one should have over drinks. I'm like, good gracious,
Right.
That's something.
Right. Ooh. I talked to the lady on Avis and she's like, oh, okay. She didn't know how to help me.
Yeah, well, for those Avis listeners out here and other car rental agencies, there's no animosity from SEL and EDU towards y'all. We need y'all to get us what we need. We need you to get us going. But
please help. Please help.
Hopefully by the time this podcast comes out, like that has been resolved in a beautiful way. I look forward to, a wonderful story. We need a Lifetime or Hallmark special ending here.
Yeah, I think I might go back into this. I have a new program that I can edit the video based on taking out text. And I think I'm going to bleep out the car company.
Okay. Whatever, float your world. Like, I understand. You got to do what we got to do. I will say, because I know we have wonderful guests that I can't wait to dig into. I will say, yes, I started I'm in what feels like a tsunami of things. And so I'm carrying a lot of emotions. Some of them are mine. Some of them are different personalities. I want to return some of this stuff back to people because I'm like, I don't need that. I don't need your energy this way. I don't understand why it hijacked my spirit. I don't know whether I am Craig Aarons Martin as we speak. I could be the avatar that is sitting up on this thing, but we gonna roll the way we roll. Whew, if this podcast was just on, what it means to, wake up and have a shit show of a day. I call robust, right? Because this is real. This SEL, like for real. EDU, hello. Sometimes we got shit shows, and we're gonna work through it.
Yep, personal lives. It's a philosophy. We have to model this in our personal lives so that we can show up the way we need as professionals.
Look, I'm just saying, I feel like this is one of them days where I'm like, I would, could be on Bourbon Street and I know that it is noon. It's 12 o'clock somewhere. I got have a beverage in my hand or a little Bailey's in my cup. and just let me walk and be. Just have the sun outside and a cute puppy, and I'm gonna be okay. I'm gonna figure this thing out. So let's just go ahead and get on in. Because we got great guests who are here. They are laughing at
Yes, they are.
we are on a whole different level today. And SELED family, child, I'm just telling you, if you got stockings on, you're gonna pull them off. It's gonna be hot. I'm just saying. It's gonna be it's gonna be
A new level of Craig.
And hey, I'm just saying. And people are like, well, who's still wearing stockings? Huh. That might be the question. If you're still wearing stockings, what's going on? Your leg might be sweaty. I don't know. Maybe you're moisturized. I don't know. Let's go ahead and plug into today's guest. Krista, let's talk about who we are welcoming to the mic today.
Yeah, and I have to say that I am so happy that we have Stephanie Brown and Don Sturm with us because they can handle this level of energy. I know they can, and they're going to match us in this. So we have Stephanie Brown. Her favorite roles are being a mom to 3 beautiful children, a wife, and an educator. She loves people and loves to learn. And so we just kicked it off and have been meeting like every month to brainstorm things. She has served as a principal, a school counselor, and she is currently the assistant director of student support services and wellness in Morton School District in Illinois. She is also a neural sequential model of education advanced trainer. So in other words, she knows all about the brain and she schools me all the time. And they're like going, woo, 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 woo. You just can't see in the background. She says it is her honor to walk beside other educators as we all strive to show up as our best selves to serve those that enter our school doors. We also have Don Sturm, who is in his 33rd year as an educator, and he is currently a technology integration specialist in Morton, Illinois, at the same school district. Before this, he was, heart of my hearts, a social studies teacher for 23 years. He is an avid reader and is passionate about curiosity. If you are not following him on Instagram and Twitter and X and all the things that have those names that are constantly changing, you need to do so because his curiosity just shines through. They are both the co-hosts of Care You podcast. It is a toolbox of resources and conversations for anyone doing the most rewarding and exhausting, but joy-filled and hard work of raising and caring for children. Stephanie and Don, thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks for having us. This is an exciting platform to be a part of.
Wow, I know. I think we start with, hey, Stephanie, how are you?
Good. How are you, Don?
And then that's it. And then we get going. So we've learned something here. And I will tell you what, that introduction, guess what the hardest part for me was?
I'm not going to put words in your mouth. You say it.
Not talking.
Oh.
I wanted to interject so much. And so I was like shaking almost trying to. So I was glad when you turned it over to, well, I don't want to turn it over to us, but allowed us to talk.
So how has your day been robust today? How are you doing? What's on your hearts?
I feel pretty lame compared to your guys' stories. I've just been in meetings and then came to get on the podcast. So I don't have any robust stories from the morning, but you never know when you say things are calm. Usually that means it all comes out. So
blow out. Yep.
Yeah.
Well, you've
just been busy.
You have a new puppy too, though. There's nothing like new puppy story. And Craig was just talking about having a puppy with him.
I do have a puppy, but he was pretty calm today too. Now I'm going to get home and something's going to go wrong. And I'm going to email both of you and say, this is all your fault.
I apologize in advance.
It's all good. It's all good.
Yeah. It's just been a busy week, actually. This is, I don't know when this will come out. This is a Thursday and it's just been nonstop, but not necessarily in a bad way.
But we do live in Illinois and it has been gray and gloomy. And so you said this will come out in the spring. So I cannot wait for that because I am really longing for some sunshine. And I feel like everybody's moods are just better when it's not this gray yuck.
It is 52 out right now. So 52, 52 in February is, I'll take that.
Yeah. Yeah. And when I was there in the last week and a half, it was fairly nice weather from what I'm used to in Illinois. But then I came back to Philly and it's cold and dreary here too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm curious because I have had the great pleasure of being on the Care You podcast twice to share with caregivers. And I would love to know your thought process behind creating this for your district, for people in the area and around the country. What led to this and how has it impacted you both as an educator and as parents?
Yeah. So Don actually has participated and hosted other podcasts, and we talk and collaborate and reflect together a lot. And one day we were just talking about how there's a lot going on in our schools, and it would be great to be able to reflect and connect with caregivers. And we were just like, but you host these events, and then not everybody can come because of schedules. They're either have other plans, or they just don't have childcare, or whatever the case may be. And so we were toying with, should we put a website up? What should we do? And I'm like, man, it'd be great to do a podcast or something like a podcast, I think I said. And Don's like, let's do it. So I was like, really? Well, he had already had the experience, so that is super helpful. And then we got the support right away from our superintendent, and we have just never looked back.
And I believe you said, shut up.
I probably
we
did.
cannot do. And I was like, yeah, it's not hard. I mean, we will just figure out what our shtick is, and then we'll go from there. And it's been fun.
The most hilarious part, I wish I could show you, was the creation of the logo. Don had all these. Do you remember this, Don? He sent me these images, and I was like, oh, that's cute. I was actually thinking more something which was totally different.
Yeah. In other words, she was telling me, I don't really like that. And I'm not a designer, but I'm also not afraid to throw stuff out there. And that's just part of me. And I was like, yeah, I'll just do this. And I don't know. And so now we have, it is an awesome logo, but it's
Very simple.
Yep.
Yeah, I like the minimalist approach to that. And I love, Don, though, too, your ability to just kind of throw things out. That's like the growth mindset. What can we do? How can I grow and get better? And I think you give, just knowing your relationship, really good feedback to each other. And
yeah, it's so Stephanie was in our district before and then left. So we had known each other. She actually was my daughter's basketball coach. And so we have a relationship prior to this. So I think that makes it easier the same way when the other podcast I do, I co-taught with her for 15 plus years. So it's always nice to have that relationship. I can't imagine doing this and not knowing the person at first that you are working with. So
it makes it so much more fun. We laugh a lot also, which I can tell you two do as well. But we laugh, we give signals of like, oh man, what are we doing? So it is a lot of fun, but really it's a true honor. I'm a parent of a child in each grade level, elementary, middle, and high school. And Don is further ahead in his journey on the parenting. And so he gives me insight.
I'm older.
I didn't say that.
Yeah.
But he gives me insight. He gives different perspective. And I think that's really a beautiful thing for our listeners, is because I'm kind of in the thick of it. And sometimes when you're out of the thick of it, you can give a different perspective. And that's all we're seeking to do, is give perspective, not to shame or blame or say that any one way is right or wrong. And I think that has been the biggest feedback we've gotten, is just the opportunity for people to take our content and reflect what it means to them.
Yeah, I mean, I have a 31 and a 26-year-old, and so it is different. And it's hard to even sometimes when we talk about topics that are like with technology, that's one that we hear a lot about. It was just different. I mean, when my kids were, remove 10 years ago, it just wasn't the same. And so some of those things, I can look at it from a lens of, here's what I've read about. Here's what I've heard other people do. I can't tell you that I did that because my kids weren't on Instagram 10 years ago or 12 years ago. So.
I aspire that that's going to be Craig and I, that my kids are going to be older. Craig's going to be like, what is happening? And so, yeah.
Greg, do you have children?
I do not have my own at this time.
So she's saying you guys are going to be together for a while.
That's an accurate depiction.
Pretty much if Craig's like, let's go here, I'm like, okay. Wait, what are we doing?
We're lifetime care bears. That's how this works. So, we're on missions all over the place.
That's what we need to start calling. We're lifetime care bears.
Just, I love the look on your face.
Yeah, I was gonna say I didn't know how to tell. She kind of just
visuals, honey.
What?
I was envisioning him saying that we have a meeting in a little bit. I'm gonna have him say that to the team. Yeah. I'll let y'all know the looks that were given in the comments.
That is amazing. So I'm curious. In the sphere of parenting, I spent some time last month with my parents, who are both. Gosh, I want to say my dad is a boomer, but he rejects and rebukes that as an actual depiction. But my mom and my dad are like 60s and 70s at this point. And so we've been having these conversations about technology, access to technology. What are they looking to in order to kind of stay up and abreast of things? My father is interested in just knowing what is the pulse of what is going on. He is the guy who, if he sees on the news on weather.com that something's going to Boston, he is going to harass my mother and make sure that she reaches out to me to actually find out what is going on. How are we doing? Even though my dad has my number, he can call me and say, hey, son, where are you at? What's going on? But no, he says to my mom, who is in the next room, you need to find out what's going on with that boy, which is its own thing. It's real interesting. But one of the things I think about with, the nature of parenting, social media, and how we're leveraging things. And I'm just curious with a fun question to kind of kickstart, or actually continue our conversation. So you talked about having a 32-year-old and then
31 and 26.
26. So what does Netflix look like? Like, how do y'all navigate? Like, what is the show everybody comes together and watches while y'all are around? So is there a show or shows that y'all are hooked to and connected to when y'all are together? Or is it like everybody on their own devices, regardless of being in the same room?
So we are, because they're both out of the house. It may be like we were all together last weekend, and we have such different tastes that we find ourselves not with the TV on when we're all four together. I would like to say, because we're bonding and we have all this wonderful time together as a family. Nope. We've tried, and my son is purely documentaries. My daughter is all kinds of sad. She's not sad, but she likes all of the, the books that make you cry. And she took me to see Iron Fist. One of the saddest movies I've ever seen. And my wife and I tend to, we like to watch things together. But yeah, as a family, my son doesn't like movies. It's too much for him to sit for a couple of hours. And so, yeah, there's not a lot movie wise and TV wise that we agree on.
Wow. That's something. Very similar for me and my parents in regards to what we watch and don't. My mom watches court TV. She loves all the judges, Judge Judy and the whole judge suite. My dad is Western sports and just national news. I'm one who likes a good murder mystery. I love home improvement shows and things like that. And that's it. We find a way over food to be able to talk and engage. And
that's us. I love to cook. My son now is currently into. It just cracks me up when I say it. He is into fermenting. And I mean, there is always something that he's having us try. Try this cabbage, try these Brussels sprouts, try this hot sauce, try this. So he took my love of cooking, and my wife and daughter would prefer to just eat the stuff that we make. So
Nice.
Tiffany, what are you all bonding around? Are there any common shows that you watch?
So I have a 10-year-old, going to be 12-year-old and a 14-year-old, and the oldest are boys, and they constantly watch disc golf, and that my husband loves it too. Disc golf, sports, all those things. And my daughter, being the youngest, she doesn't really get a choice. So she watches whatever they watch. But if we had to pick a movie, we love like Avatar and the Hunger Games movies. And usually that's a hard thing to do, though. That's a really good question, because if you have a span, or people with different interests, of course, it is hard to find one. But I would say those are the movies that we would probably lean towards. Or Christmas Vacation.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that you say that, because I think that's why we are in the situation, because our kids are 5 years apart. And so what my son could watch at 15, my daughter was not watching probably at 10. So it was uncommon. And we would sit and watch Disney movies or Christmas Vacation, Christmas Story, those kinds of things. But I think the closer in age your kids are, that's probably easier to do.
Yeah. Otherwise, my daughter's going, "Can I look yet?" with her hands over her face. And we're like, "No, you can't look." So it's a fun question to ask, but that's the kind of thing that we talk about on our podcast, is just things that our people are dealing with. And that's something I would say is probably a common question you could ask any group of people. What would you all watch together? So I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that one, as I poorly, set the stage, I'm thinking about, well, how am I continuing to build relationship with my parents who are in their 60s and 70s? I've crossed the 40s threshold, and there is a daughter, not mine yet, but there's a granddaughter who is in her own world, and she loves all kinds of things that show like empowerment of girls, and she loves superheroes right now, and she's very fascinated by some of the Disney films as well, but she loves to see, right now she's really about girl empowerment, which I think is righteous. I'm curious for the work that you do, and as well as some of the conversations you've been having on your own podcast within your communities around how because there's so much that is out in the ether in regards to social media and media that we're seeing, and families still trying to find ways to connect and build relationship regardless of generations. And so I'm just curious about, what have you seen, what have you observed, what has been some of the conversations that you've been having on how do parents continue to parent in the midst of this social media world that we're in, or how do you continue to strengthen relationships that may feel strained because they're just not always on the same page about things. There's so much going on now. So I'm just kind of curious about, your observations, maybe your own experiences in parenting and building and extending those relationships.
Yeah, I am all about the modeling part of things, in that because I didn't go through it firsthand necessarily, trying to help parents understand what is social media, why are your kids on social media, what are they getting from it, what are the good things, what are the bad things, but then that modeling, like how are you using social media? And if you want to know what your kids are doing on TikTok, I might recommend getting on TikTok. And sometimes I think that parents they're not looking at themselves in the mirror necessarily, like, oh, I realize I'm complaining about my son or daughter being on their phone all the time, but I'm on my phone all the time. So we talk about intentionality and that idea of just causing people to step back, reflect, be intentional, and say, oh, okay, well, my kids are seeing me do that as well.
And I would say the other thing is the boundaries. We have pretty strict boundaries at our house, like mealtime. You mentioned connecting over food. If and when we have a meal together, the phones and the TV is off. But we just talked about that. What does that look like in your house? Whatever the boundary is it, I try to say goodnight to my kids every night. I know that sounds crazy. Maybe sounds like, oh, of course you do, but their phones are in the kitchen and I'm making that intentional connection. But not everybody does that. Some people work at different hours. And so my story isn't the same. So it's just like taking the opportunity to think about boundaries and what that looks like, because I feel like the most important thing is being present. So it's less about the amount of time and more about the quality of time that you get. So if you only get 5 minutes with your kid, then I want them to look at me in the eyes and know that I see you and I want to know how you're doing, rather than looking at my phone while they're looking at theirs, which we could totally get in that spiral in our house. So that's really important. But then the other thing that you brought up, I don't know if either of you have read Never Enough by Jennifer Wallace.
Oh,
so that's really in our community right now. That is talking about a toxic culture of overachievement and the doing more and more and more and more. And so I'm just going to bring up travel sports to use this as an example. And so I think we are with our kids in less amount of time because we feel like we have to have them signed up for foreign language and travel softball and,
as she says, an architecture class at 9 years old. And
the book is fascinating. Y'all
Yes,
should read it. But I think part of it is social media, but it's also, we are so busy. We don't have the downtime of like, we don't have anything going on. And that book really opened my eyes to a lot of at what cost. Every yes is a no. So if I say yes to my oldest son doing something, then my youngest daughter has to go with us. And I don't know, that's pretty profound in our community right now. We're doing a book study with our caregivers on that and with our teachers. But it's something that I really resonated with as an educator and as a mom. So I would recommend that you guys check that out.
Yeah. Thank you for that. You're always giving me great book recommendations. And so I keep ordering and getting more of these books here.
It's fabulous. I mean, I would say it is one of my favorite nonfiction books that I've ever read.
It might be the number one book right now in New York Times. It's brand new, but it blew up. And I think it blew up because it's so applicable. She says in one part that if you feel like if you don't get on the elevator, your kid is going to be stuck at the ground floor forever in terms of travel, whatever, at a very young age, or singing lessons. It doesn't have to be sport. But we found that with our community, they really resonate with that. And it's like the so what, now what? Like, how do we stop this train from going 99 miles an hour all the time? And so I don't know if you all feel that in your roles, but that idea of the toxic overachievement also plays a role along with social media in how we be present and have that quality of time, in my opinion.
Yeah. And so my kids are older too. And I'm thinking back on like the sports that they did and the activities. And honestly, we didn't really push anything unless they really showed a genuine interest. So we didn't have a ton of things that we were involved in. It was like they wanted to do baseball. So we did baseball. And we did go to different places and games and things like that several times a week, but we weren't into like the travel schedules and we have to be doing this all of the time. I think that part of that is also that I intentionally wanted them to have downtime for more imaginative play and more opportunities to not have things so structured. And I say that also knowing that I'm somebody who has a hard time just sitting without having my computer on my lap and like researching or doing work or like learning something. And so I acknowledge that that's something I could probably read that book and internalize some of those pieces for myself. Like, okay, what's my next step? If I don't do this, am I going to fall behind as a business owner, in the practice? And so I think that that's really applicable for those of us as educators and as caregivers. Um, and wrapping around to this idea of caregivers, I know we've talked about this before, and I think it's really important. And I love the fact that you call it care you, and we're not talking about parents or guardians. And oftentimes I would move to family. And so do you mind talking about the why you picked the term caregivers and how that has resonated in the community? And in my mind, it's more inclusive. And I'd like to hear your thoughts on that.
That was our intention behind it.
Yeah.
I was a counselor for a decade. And so I had a lot of students that would share with me that as soon as you say parents, that it's exclusive. It doesn't include everyone. That's not my story. And we really just wanted this to be a platform for everyone who is caring for someone. And so we share with our teachers too, because they care for the kids in their classroom sometimes. And we have grandparents in the role. And I just think we need to be intentional about being more inclusive. That was an easy shift for us. And honestly, it was pretty powerful, but we try to be intentional about our words also. So you hit it. I mean, that's why we did it, is to try to be intentional with that.
Well, and it's interesting too, because and I think I probably am more guilty of it than you, but I think we've both done it while we are recording. We may say parents, but a lot of times we'll say parents, caregiver, like it's just that it's become that habit. And I think it is inclusive. And like when I hear, let's just take teachers, for example, it is so easy. And I did it as well. Okay, take this form home and have your mom and dad sign, or your mom or dad. Nobody means anything by that. Like, it's not like teachers are trying to be exclusive, but it is that language. What would it change to say caregivers versus parents? Because now, let's say 1 year, everybody in your class happens to have they're with their parents. It's still not going to change anything. You know what I mean? It's, oh, okay, you're caregivers. They are your caregivers. But just think about that one kid in your class that is living with aunt, uncle, mom, dad, whomever, a friend, what that would make them feel like if they don't hear, go home to your parents. I mean, and I always think, let's take the worst situation, a child who has had the parents maybe pass away. I mean, just the stress of that. And they're always probably trying to get that out of their head. And now here's somebody reminding them, you don't have parents. So that was a long way around just saying, I agree with you, Stephanie.
He likes to talk. That's why I like him on the podcast.
That's awesome. And I think I've worked with people who are like, well, why should I just change this word? I'm like, what do you value? And if you value inclusivity and having students feel that they're a part of a community, it's worth changing a word or two.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you sharing that. And I'm going to kick it over to Craig, because he, in talking about the book from Jennifer Wallace, he found this quote that is just amazing. And I think speaks to how we show up as caregivers.
Yeah. And I feel like it's also, this quote resonates for me even as an educator, but it says kids don't need perfect role models. In fact, perfection doesn't serve them, doesn't serve the adults in their lives. Our kids need someone who is just good enough, someone who loves them and teaches them what it means to be imperfect, to be an imperfect but lovable human. And I am not a parent yet, but I've had to foster and be a surrogate in many cases. And kids are okay with rough draft vision or like versions of who we are. And we're going to continue to be rough draft versions of we never arrive at whatever is perfection. But you are imperfectly perfect for the young person who you get to steward into a greater part of their own being and existence. And I know sometimes we feel, I'll talk about, since I talked about my parents a lot and just their caregiving, my parents did the best they could with what they had and the tools they had. And they weren't handed great tools, but they took the tools, no matter how rusty, no matter how jagged, they did the best that they could to create the environment where we could thrive based on the best they knew. They knew they wanted us to live in a house together. They wanted to make sure that they could see two parents who are working incredibly hard. They have two, while they are united by a faith system and a belief, even how that manifests is different. What they require from each other as well as the children was different. And at some point down the line, once I got older and had an opportunity to step back, I can see so much of myself from like this part is from dad, this part is from mom. But I understood that for them, core values was faith and family, love, hard, that traditions were shared over food, and that we're going to make mistakes and we have to do our best to say I'm sorry and atone for the things that we did wrong. How do we repair harm when we've done it? Even if they don't always model that perfectly well, there is always this belief that, hopefully tomorrow we can do better than we did yesterday. And that is part of our, handoff to us as children. And now that I am much older, I have the ability to do that same thing as well and translate that. So for me, thank you for sharing Never Enough by Jennifer Wallace. I can't wait to pick it up. I have not read it yet. I just think about Never Enough, the song from Greatest Showman. So I'll start there first. And I still think that even that premise and that book and that song are in alignment to Jennifer Wallace. So maybe they cook something together on this one.
They probably should have if they didn't, right?
Yeah. Yeah, the perfectionism, I think our society sometimes holds that perfectionism as like a badge of honor. And we try to be non-blaming, non-shaming, non-judgmental. So I need to be careful. I think we have to be careful with thinking that's a badge of honor. I think we have to consider what the ramifications are of that perfectionism. I'm not a perfectionist, but I think anybody who knows me would say he's a hard worker. He cares about what he does. And I try not to put out bad stuff. But sometimes it's going to happen. Sometimes there's going to be a typo in something. Sometimes there's going to be, I accidentally switched that when I was writing. I forgot to put that sentence above this sentence. And you know what? I change it and republish it. It's not, I don't lose sleep over, it might bother me. I'm not going to lie and say, it doesn't bother me. But I think somehow we need to move our society forward that you don't have to be perfect. And what I think Brene Brown, we did The Gifts of Imperfection for our first book study. Now we're doing Never Enough. I think the more you are vulnerable about things like that, it breaks down those walls to have other people say, I'm willing to be vulnerable as well.
I thought of a robust moment. Craig, are you ready for this? A parenting moment. So I value sleep. That is a value in our house. Like our kids have to go to bed. We go to bed. And one night we left our oldest son home with our dog and we went to a basketball game of our other son. And we came back and our 14-year-old fell asleep, left this brand new puppy out. The puppy had accidents all over our living room because he was trying to wake up Liam. Liam wasn't waking up. And so I walk in and I'm going to say one of my least proud moments. I did not handle that very well. Our house smelled. I was annoyed. He had one job. Okay. So I was not happy. I was telling Don about this and Don was like looking at me. He's like, you know what? It's really surprising that you handled that way because you value sleep. And obviously he was tired. And I was like, oh, yes. So I went back to my son and repaired. And I think you hit on that. And I think that's really powerful. Now, did I tell him that I wasn't disappointed? Absolutely not, because I was disappointed. But I did say, I don't think I handled that correctly, because clearly you were tired. But what could have been done differently? How could we have, I could have handled this differently. Let me tell you now, how could you have handled it differently? And it was pretty powerful. Because if the kid's tired, he's tired. But did he go to bed the night before on time? All those things. It just made me think of when you said that your parents did a good job at not being perfect and also showing the repair and love. I hope I did that in that example to show like, hey, I know I didn't handle that very well, but I do share these things on Care You. I didn't share that story, but I share a lot of personal stories, and I always wonder if it's okay because I don't ask my kids permission, but I usually don't use names. I just did them.
Yeah, you did. I was going to say, yeah. You know that when you mentioned the repair the rupture, we need to have somebody on our podcast who would be willing to talk about that.
Maybe Craig wants to.
Well, we had Krista.
Oh, yeah.
That was the episode. Okay, I was trying to be funny there.
Yeah, I'm like, wait a minute. That sounds like one I did.
We stole it from Krista. Remember when I said that? She said it in a PD session, and I was like, that's amazing.
Yeah. I must have gotten that from somebody else, though. So I wish I could say that I came up with that.
You make it up.
I probably didn't.
I love this. This is my robust story. Stephanie, her skill set is thinking she invented all kinds of things that she didn't actually invent. And now I can't even think of one of them.
SEL coaching. I thought I invented SEL coaching.
Yeah. And then she'll be like, I read that in a book that was published before I said that. So obviously I didn't invent it. And it's a never ending drama with Stephanie.
It reminds me of the Romy and Michelle's high school reunion when she's like, I invented the Post-it notes. And they're like, what?
That went over my head.
Yeah, we'll have to.
Being the oldest guy in the room.
It's that. Yeah. Well, and thinking about where you were able to call her in, because I think Brené Brown also talks about like, what are your core values? What does it look like when you're leaning into them? What does it look like when you're slipping out of your core values? And how can you have some people around you who can help you notice that and call you on it and be like, well, you said this was a value of yours. And we all have our blind spots. And Craig and I talked to Hedrick Nichols a couple of weeks ago about noticing blind spots, and we don't always see them ourselves. And so it's good having amazing friends around who can help us see those pieces and allow us to become better versions of ourselves. And we don't get upset about it because we know they're coming from a place of care.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Did you hear what she said?
Amazing people.
Amazing friends. I think she was talking about me.
I'm seeing 3 of them right here.
Yeah. And that's what I love about the podcast. It causes us to have so many great conversations. Like, what did you do with your kids? And we didn't do very well with that. I wish, because kids don't come with an instruction manual at all. And I don't think we as a society, we just expect everybody is going to be a great parent, a great caregiver. We just expect that. And then we almost push our nose up when people aren't doing what we think they should be doing. But it's like, how did they find out to do what they're doing? And sometimes they're looking at their neighbor and they're like, well, we'll just do what our neighbor's doing, or we'll do what my parents did, but maybe I don't like what my parents did, but and so I just love to have those conversations. Like, what is a way, not the way, what is a way that you could help a child navigate whatever it is that they're going through?
Which makes me think of my favorite thing. When I had the realization and the permission that we didn't have to carve pumpkins, I don't like that. I don't like carving pumpkins. My kids didn't like carving pumpkins, but we thought we had to carve pumpkins. And somewhere along the way, somebody said, just don't do it. And I'm like, yes. That kind of goes to that perfection piece. Like, why were we doing it? We would much prefer to paint them. That's more fun. That they don't make a mess, whatever. But really, my husband was carving 5 pumpkins by himself because none of the kids couldn't hold the knife. And it was just a whole thing. But we've gotten that feedback a lot, that we give people permission to think about something a different way. And I think you mentioned like amazing friends, but I also think the work that you do on this podcast probably gives people permission. And I just think that's such good work.
Sounds like y'all are sharing your superpowers.
I don't think they
Yeah.
know about that part of our podcast, Craig.
Oh, so we have a question for every guest, and you both are phenomenal human beings. So, what would you consider to be your superpower at this point in your life?
Mm. I actually very easily, the first thing I thought of was I have a lot of empathy, and I am able to, throughout experience, really sit with people. It doesn't take much for me to find the human in any scenario. And I maybe Don would disagree, but I feel like that's something I've just realized it's not that easy for everyone, but it's just something I love humans, and I can find good in almost every scenario. So I think I have a lot of empathy. That would probably be mine.
Yeah, I mean, not to copy off, but I think I'm much more empathetic. I mean, I'll share I will spare you the whole backstory, but 15 years ago, I was not the same person. I was judgmental. I was quick to, I wasn't real empathetic. I wasn't, and I've changed from some personal experiences that we have gone through. And so I think the empathy is there. And for me, it's the connection. I think that is my skill set. I mean, like I can remember even my parents, like Don never knows a stranger. He's never, I mean, and that part of it has been me all along. And I think then you add that, and now you add the empathy into it. And I think you kind of wish, I mean, I'm mid 50s. I wish I would have been that way when I was 23 or 25, but sometimes there is wisdom, I think. Not always, but there can be. So did I answer that question at all? We got a thumbs up, so good.
We are around the bend at the close of this journey for today. So how do folks connect with you? Because I'm sure they're excited and ignited by what they've heard so far, and they definitely need to check out your podcast more. So how do folks find you and stay connected to the great things that you are discussing and doing and showing up in the world?
Yeah, so the podcast is a really great way. We try to put out an episode every 2 weeks. We would love feedback. So if anybody listens and checks that out, both on social media, Don's a lot more active. I'm more of social media with my family, but I do have Instagram, Facebook, X. They're all the Brown family of 5, but it's very it's like a personal. But I do try to post things. So that's me.
Yeah, I am probably most active on, I have a hard time saying X, Twitter, am dabbling in Instagram and that, but I am Sturm Don. And yeah, the podcast, I mean, I think that's the other thing is you always say, oh, we want feedback. I mean, we genuinely want feedback. And we have a couple of listeners that I don't know that they've ever had a negative thing to say. But you sometimes want people to say, oh, it'd be nice if you did this, or if you ever considered this. So yeah, we would love for people to listen and give feedback.
I'm like, wait, are you going to speak? Or am I? Welcome to the world of podcasting. We're like, okay, who's up? So yes, we are going to link to the podcast, to your social medias, so that people can reach out to both of you. And I really, really recommend that people take a listen. I think that in education, we're talking about relationships and how to support students. And oftentimes we don't think about how we're connecting directly and supporting the caregivers that are working in conjunction with us. And that's really powerful. We want students to have similar contexts. And so how can we share what is working? And I appreciate that both of you as educators and as caregivers are able to give us that perspective. And just a little note, I'm also looking forward to being Auntie Krista when Craig and Omari decide that, maybe they want to expand their family, even if it's a puppy. I'm gonna be Auntie Krista.
Puppies are great. Hopefully the same thing doesn't happen to you that happened to me.
As someone who had several puppies and that turned into little grown folks, like it happens, right? It happens, and we'll be okay. All right, SEL and EDU family, we want to close out this wonderful conversation. You must check out, like, subscribe, and do all of the magical things with our wonderful dynamic duo. We have Stephanie and we have Don here. They have been phenomenal. And please, please, please check out their podcast. All of that is contained in the show notes. So until we actually return again, SEL and EDU family, there's this big question about whether or not folks are still wearing stockings. I know, I'm still thinking about that from earlier today, but it's all right. You can wear whatever you want. You can wear things on your knees or not, lotion or not, coconut butter or coconut oil or apples, whatever, whatever brings it. Oh gosh.
Like apples, and I stopped recording. Apples on your knees? What is going on?
You might be peeling them. So, SEL and ED family, this is my second try on going ahead and closing this bad boy out, but it's all good. We want to send all of y'all love. We want y'all to laugh. We just really hope you got all you could and more from today's conversation. All right, SEL and ED family. Until we are connected again, we want to wish you and yours, who you hold dear, hold them real tight, and stand strong, imperfectly perfect in the SEL and EDU light. We love you. Y'all take care.